Hi, this is Esther Lin, photographer for MMAfighting.com, and this is Focus, UFC 217. It's finally here. UFC 217 Fight Week in New York City. The first to walk onto the court at Madison Square Garden is the returning George St-Pierre. This is our first live glimpse of the former welterweight champion. Never having been one to reveal much in an open workout, St-Pierre chooses to pull a fan from the crowd and teach him some basic grappling with his coach Firas Zahabi. The open workouts proceed as they always do, until TJ Dillashaw saunters barefoot over to the hoop to try a shot. He makes it. Those who would follow would miss their first tries. If McGregor's win here at the Garden last year is any indication, this is a good omen for Dillashaw. Out comes the strawweight queen, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, all smiles and laughter to a very excited crowd. Jędrzejczyk basks in the adoration of the fans, handing out t-shirts and dunking them. A bright, burning star. The last two champs round out the workouts and we're off to media day. The next day, the press conference has more of the usual antics as Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw jaw back and forth while Michael Bisping lobs insults at the ever level-headed George St-Pierre, who laughs it all off. Joanna Jędrzejczyk also operates as usual, trying to needle her way into Rose Namajunas' nerves, but Thug Rose seems fairly unfazed. Just a glimmer of that fire, Namajunas reminds the crowd as she walks off stage that just because she's not reacting doesn't mean she's backing down. Genuine bad blood is hard to come by in this post-McGregor world, and even this beef has its origins with the notorious one. St-Pierre conducts the crowd as they cheer, GSP, GSP. I feel like there's nothing to say about their face-off. Really, this week is progressing on its own, everything fairly self-explanatory. It's a Michael Bisping fight week. And St-Pierre has the perfect foil to his typically gentlemanly nature. The next morning, we gathered in a ballroom at the Stewart Hotel for the official weigh-ins. Johnny Hendricks approached the scale, and he wanted us all in the media to know that he only needs a towel because he completely forgot to account for the weight of his underwear. Rose Namajunas takes to the scale with a solemn calm, while Bisping is jovial and amped. In the years that George St-Pierre has been away from MMA, much has changed. Now there are early weigh-ins with officials and media, so that the fighters have more time to rehydrate. In his first early weigh-in, GSP makes middleweight, of course, and mulls over what pose he should do, and he decides on the archer. The champion Jędrzejczyk is the last to arrive, coming in under the wire to make the strawweight limit. I'm tempted to wonder if her cut went poorly, but she seems in good spirits. We're so much closer to the fighters at these weigh-ins than in the past. We're only feet away, as opposed to photographing them from the stands. At the ceremonial weigh-ins, Jędrzejczyk ascends the stage to fanfare, the crowd in the theater at Madison Square Garden rowdily rooting for the Polish fighter, who seems to shine under the bright lights. It's another heated stare-down, this time with Namajunas more visibly reciting a prayer to herself. Fists clenched, though, just in case. Thug Rose ain't a fool. I know she's not flexing in this photo, but visually with Namajunas' profile and demeanor, she reminds me of Rosie the Riveter here. Something about this fills me with pride. And then the champ gets on the mic and lets us know that the Boogie Woman is coming. Garbrandt scowls in the face-off with Dillashaw, and TJ's grin only sets off the champ more. There must be little less frustrating than to be met with a sterling smile when you're seething with anger. Bisping grabs St-Pierre's fist, as if to turn a doorknob. As they're separated, in a rare display of emotion, GSP pokes fun at Bisping for not sporting his usual sunglasses, and then shows off his hands, trembling with feigned fear. It's fight night. If the first fight is any indication of what's to come, this is going to be another epic night at the Garden. When Ovince St. Preux lands an early head kick on Corey Anderson, I think I've gotten my shot of the fight as Anderson's mouthpiece goes flying. But that head kick would rear again, and I would find the shutter at the exact time to catch the sweat flying off the New Yorker's face as he went to sleep. I'm buzzing. This is my personal main event. I watch Jacek stalk the cage. I run up the stairs to get a higher vantage point as Buffer introduces Namajunas so I can see more of this iconic venue. The last stare down as referee John McCarthy gives his final instructions is chilling. Not long into the fight, the crowd here at the Garden is roaring as Namajunas knocks down the champion. Jacek fights back to her feet, but Thug Rose is relentless in her pursuit. The Lithuanian fighter cocks her fist as it rains down. Soon, amid the chaos of voices in the arena, Rose Namajunas stands up from the long reigning champ's folded figure and is now the Strawweight champion. One more show of strength and pride before Namajunas lets the weight of the moment sink in and her joy draws tears from her face. So few thought this crown would ever belong to another woman. Before there's time to consider this sea change, we're on to another title fight. Now, with the new champion in the building, the Garden is electric. Dillashaw responds to Buffer's introduction with his customary white-hot intensity. In the opening round, Garbrandt seems to be reading Dillashaw well, foreseeing nearly every strike and responding in kind, finishing it with a knockdown that sends TJ Dillashaw strutting backwards as the round's bell is rung. No doubt Garbrandt sat on the stool between rounds with his confidence brimming. But with the stars still circling his head, TJ Dillashaw marched into the second round with a new plan in hand. It was clear the former champion had made adjustments. Cody Garbrandt had found a home for his hands throughout the first round, and now TJ Dillashaw's kicks were finding their target, and the tide turned for the challenger. Eventually, they would both throw a left hook, but Dillashaw's was on the button, and the young champ's reign is over. Just as soon as the fight is called off, Cody Garbrandt is back on his feet, yelling into Dillashaw's face. Dillashaw doesn't back down and yells back. The referee separates them. Dillashaw finds his coaches and they salute each other. A team effort indeed. And just like that, we have another new champion tonight. Garbrandt watches Dillashaw wearing his belt as he exits to the locker rooms, right cheek bruised, heart crushed. Finally, it's time for the main event, and it feels like we've both been waiting forever for this, and we didn't even know we wanted to see this fight. I'd been less than thrilled for this matchup since I didn't consider GSP a middleweight, but it's right here. And now that two titles have changed hands tonight, I was incredibly excited. For the first two rounds, GSP is landing his trusty jab, with Bisping goading the smaller man as if to say, "That didn't hurt, try it again." St-Pierre gets a few takedowns but is heartily punished with elbows for them. The fight is gritty. Both men are struggling for every advantage. But in the third, St-Pierre is able to drop the middleweight champ and sets a perfect trap for his neck. The Garden is erupting. After 4 years away from MMA, George St-Pierre has returned and captured the middleweight title. And now, all three title fights tonight have resulted in new champions. The roar of the crowd is indistinguishable from my own inner commotion. I feel like someone just walked in and flipped my dining table over, but replaced it with another of equal but differing beauty. After, St-Pierre paced slowly around the cage, refusing to exit, and instead basked in each second on the canvas to make up for his long absence. St-Pierre left 4 years ago, hadn't finished a fight in nearly 8 years, and so he deserved to drink it in slowly. The delight of this moment. At the post-fight press conference, Joanna Jędrzejczyk shows us what kind of champion she's been and wishes to return as, answering questions despite angering over her pre-fight antics as if such things lost her the fight. To say that Jędrzejczyk's lost his comeuppance is to hate her inspirational confidence. To ignore what was previous to this loss just a routine, and to discount Rose Namajunas' skill. Namajunas talks the media through her game plan, both in dealing with the mental warfare and in-cage combat. The new champion answered all of our questions, but it was clear she longed to leave this bustling city to tend to her garden at home. Garbrandt too came to face the music and remained steadfast in his dislike of his usurper. His anger is somehow refreshing in an age of fake beefs. Here, we know that Garbrandt did not fume for the cameras. Dillashaw is forgiving of his former team's hatred. He doesn't worry about such things with the gold belt upon him again. And while the new champion St-Pierre visits the hospital, it is routine for him to be battered even in his most triumphant wins, the now former champion Michael Bisping is grateful for his family and sits here, cordial and accepting of his loss, but previous hints of retirement are now gone as the Count eyes revenge. In a wild night at Madison Square Garden, all 3 titles on the line have changed hands, and as in the year before, New York has played host to another monumental night of fights. Where the past few years have felt like a trend towards the gaudy and ostentatious style of promotion, now we have 3 champs whose demeanor stands in contrast, and it is this contrast that I cherish. Without the loud mouths and rabble-rousers, we would not notice the quiet solemnity of their challengers. Without contrast, we would not appreciate that this, at its core, is still a test of human effort and skill, the melding of martial arts for the sake of some kind of truth-revealing competition beyond sport or game. This is Esther Lin for MMAfighting.com. Thank you for watching.